I'm here tonight to talk about feminism in the army, but also I'm really interested in talking about not just whether feminism has been good for the army, but whether the army has been good for feminism, whether the army is actually good for women, because I think it's such a critical issue that you have to address. The role of the army is increasingly engaged in peacekeeping, which means engaging in, sexual violence in conflict is a vast, vast issue, and there's no way that you can address that appropriately if you don't come in it with a feminist ethos, with a really strong understanding of violence against women.
So is feminism good for the army?
Oh, it's a really interesting question. I think probably I'm more interested in the other way around, which is whether the army is good for feminism or whether the army is actually good for women. And I think absolutely the army has to be good for women, otherwise there can't be a justification for having it. Increasingly the role of an army is to do peacekeeping as well as to protect national security. That means engaging in conflict zones, that means addressing sexual violence, and you can't do that appropriately if you don't have a solid foundation of feminism, which really means thinking about how women are disempowered and how male violence works against women. The issue is how you kind of integrate that ethos into a really male-dominated institution like the army. So it's incredibly exciting to be at an event like this one, which is, tackling that idea head-on.
And why did this event attract you?
I was so thrilled to be invited to it. I think I don't think there's enough engagement, positive engagement between the armed forces and political writers generally, or certainly not. I'm a left-wing political writer, and I think you get the gung-ho right-wing side and you get the critical left-wing side, but there isn't necessarily enough interest in, why we have an army, what social function it serves. We do, it's actually quite useful, it's quite important, and we do owe a massive debt to the people who serve. And so I was, really excited to be invited to come along and take part in that. And also I've got family who serve in the forces, so there is a personal connection to that for me as well.
And what are you looking forward to the most tonight?
Ooh,
the wine.
The wine is good. I'm really looking forward to hearing what everyone else has to say. I've just spoken to some Chelsea pensioners downstairs who were telling me about their own stories of serving in the 60s and 70s, which is, whatever sexism we are talking about women dealing with in the army now, that's before the Equal Rights Act. That is at a time when you were really up against it. So I'm incredibly looking forward to hearing what those women have to say, because they have, astounding stories.